So, good evening. How are you? You're fine? And you're all ready for Christmas? Uh-huh. List went out to Santa Claus? Mm-hmm. You too, yeah. Right? Okay, so I'm sure Santa Claus is going to bring just the gifts that you want. And today I'm going to read you a Christmas story. So my story is called Once Upon a Starlight. Have you ever heard of a starlight?
No.
Yes, you know what it looks like?
No.
Okay, I have a picture on my phone and I'm just going to show you. It looks like this. Can you see it? It's a stick, and then when you light it, it sparkles. So you can call it a sparkler, right? So it's very pretty, but you have to be very careful. Okay? So you see I've taken off my mask so I can read to you. Okay? We okay with that? And I'm going to put on my glasses because I can't see without my glasses. So, as I said, my story is Once Upon a Starlight. Angela, all dressed in her mask, pressed her face against the glass of the toy store window. She looked longingly at the chocolate-colored doll with tight black curls, dressed in a white blouse and a frilly red skirt. Oh, how she wanted that doll. But she knew that her parents couldn't afford to buy it for her. It was almost Christmas. The store windows were draped with colored paper streamers and shiny bits of tinsel. The sidewalk stalls had balloons, starlights, and paper Christmas hats. The fruit vendors sat with their piles of pineapples, pawpaws, oranges, and shiny red apples. And there was a tall Christmas tree in the park that shone with many colored lights at night.
Yeah.
Angela sighed as she turned away from the store window. Pushing her way through the crowds of excited Christmas shoppers, she tried to console herself. She could not have the doll, but she did have a paper bag with 3 starlights. They were not little starlights, but giant ones. Old Miss Hannah, who lived nearby, had given them to her because Angela had helped her to set up her stall. When Angela got home, her father was sitting on the veranda. He had been out of work for some time and looked very, very sad. Every day he went looking for work, but he couldn't find any. Her mother, who was sitting just inside the front door, was busy sewing. She was making clothes to sell to the stores. Angela's little sister Carol ran to meet her. "What did you buy, Angela?" she called out when she saw the paper bag. Angela showed her family the starlights and explained how she got them. "I am going to light 1 each night until Christmas," she said. "I'm glad that you will have something for Christmas," said her mother with a sigh. "There is no extra money for presents this year. The money I will get for this sewing will only be enough to buy us some food. I don't even know if we will have enough to share with Miss Hannah. I know she's alone, and we always invite her to eat with us on Christmas Day. But things have become so expensive. This has been a hard year." Angela's father looked even more sad. As soon as it was dark, Angela went into the yard to light her first starlight. Carol watched from the front steps and squeezed her little hands together in excitement. Angela struck a match and placed it against the tip of the long starlight. A gentle Christmas breeze dimmed the flame of the match. Then, as it flared again, the starlight sparkled and crackled. Angela held it firmly as hundreds of little lights darted everywhere, like stars dancing away in the night. "Swing it around, Angela," shouted Carol. "Make the lights spin." Angela was just about to twirl the starlight in wide circles over her head when she stopped. She blinked. She couldn't believe her eyes. There, sitting on the top of the starlight, was a little old lady, no bigger than a hummingbird. Her head was tied in a red and yellow bandana cloth, and she had on a bandana apron over a long blue cotton dress. Her face was wrinkled and her eyes twinkled as brightly as the starlight sparkling around her. Angela's heart pounded with fright. "Don't be afraid," said the little old lady. "I am the auntie of the starlight. It was kind of you to help Miss Hannah to set up a stall, and I have come to reward you. Each evening, as you light a starlight, I will appear, and each time you may have a wish for Christmas. What is your first wish, Angela?" Angela trembled with anticipation as she thought about the doll in the store window. Then she remembered her father and how sad he had looked. "I still have 2 other wishes," she said to herself. "Maybe I can use this one on Daddy." So she said to the old lady, "Can I wish for something for somebody else?" "Of course," replied the auntie of the starlight. "They are your wishes. You can use them in any way that you want." "Then I wish that Daddy could get a job," said Angela breathlessly. The old lady tossed her head, showering sparkles of light all over the place. "You may have your wish," she said. And before Angela could thank her, the starlight spluttered and the old lady disappeared with the last little shimmering lights. "Oh, Angela, that was so pretty," cried Carol. "Did you see her too?" said Angela. "See who?" asked Carol. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, nothing," replied Angela, deciding that she must have imagined the whole thing. The next day, while Angela's father went to look for work as usual, Angela helped her mother with the sewing. "I'm so glad you can hem so well, Angela," her mother said. "We must finish these today, as tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and I am depending on the money I get for them. Though how I will manage to fill my next order, I don't know. This old sewing machine is giving trouble, and I'm sure it will cost a lot to fix it. I suppose I will just have to sew everything by hand. But that will take so long that maybe the store will give orders to someone else." "They wouldn't do that, Mummy," said Angela reassuringly, though, to tell the truth, she was not at all sure that they wouldn't. When Angela's father came home that evening, he looked quite different. He laughed happily as he exclaimed, "I've got a job! It's a new factory which needed extra help for Christmas, and if I work well, that job will be permanent." Angela's mother smiled. "I'm so glad," she said. "Angela needs shoes to go to school next term, and my sewing machine needs fixing." "Well," replied her father, "I'll have enough money for the shoes, but that machine is too old now. They don't even have parts for it anymore. You really need a new one, but I'll have to work very hard for some time before we can think of that." "Yes, I know," her mother said. "Anyway, now we can invite Miss Hannah to have dinner with us on Christmas Day." Suddenly, Angela realized that her first wish had come true. Perhaps she had not imagined the little old lady after all. Perhaps she would really see the auntie of the starlight again. Angela sat on the front steps waiting for it to get dark. At last, the orange sun melted into the deep blue sky. Carol clapped her hands with excitement while Angela lit the second starlight. The breeze rustled through the leaves of the Christmas brush as the starlight crackled and sparkled. And then, just as before, there on its tip sat the auntie of the starlight. "Daddy got a job," said Angela. "Of course he did," replied the old lady. "Now, what is your wish this time?" And just as Angela thought about the doll in the store window again, she remembered that her mother's sewing machine wasn't working. "Well," she said to herself, "I still have my third wish. I'll use that for the doll." "If you don't mind," she said to the old lady, "I'd like to use this wish for somebody else also." I don't mind, replied Auntie of the Starlight. They are your wishes. Okay then, said Angela. I'd like a sewing machine for Mummy. The old lady tossed her head, showering sparkles of light all over the place. You may have your wish, she replied. Thank you, said Angela, and just as before, the starlight spluttered and the little old lady disappeared with the last little shimmering lights. Early next morning, Angela, her mother, and Carol delivered the finished clothes to the store. Then they went to buy food for Christmas Day. They bought some sorrel and ginger in the market to make the sorrel drink. They got sweet potatoes from a lady by the side of the road. Angela's mother said that even a small ham was too expensive this year, so they bought a nice big chicken instead. She said Miss Hannah would probably bring a small Christmas pudding as usual. It would be a great Christmas after all. That evening, just as Angela's mother was crushing the ginger and Angela and Carol were picking the red sorrel, their father came home. I have a surprise for you, he said to Angela's mother with a big smile on his face. One of the men at the factory knows a man who sells sewing machines. He will let us have one since I'm working and I can pay him a little each week from my salary. And meanwhile, you will have something to use. There was a happy light in her mother's eye, and her father's face shone with pride because once again he could help his family. Angela knew she had used her first two wishes, and now on Christmas Eve she would make her final wish. She could not stay still. She kept running out of the yard to look at the sky. Slowly, oh so slowly, it changed from a pale blue to grey streaked with pink. At last it was dark. The two girls stood in the front yard. Angela took a box of matches from her pocket to light the starlight. Suddenly, Carol said, Please, Angela, can I hold the starlight this time? No, you can't, replied Angela quickly. You are too little. It might burn you. I'm big enough. I'll be careful, cried Carol. I never got a chance to hold one before. Please, Angela, please let me hold it for just a little. Angela thought about the doll. Then she looked at her sister. Her little body was trembling with excitement as her eyes pleaded for this chance. All right, sighed Angela, but just for a little. You must give it back to me when I tell you. Yes, I will. Thank you, Angela, Carol whispered. After all, Angela said to herself, it is long enough for both of us to have a turn at holding it. I will still have a chance to see the Auntie of the Starlight. The starlight burst into glittering lights as Carol held it tightly, her face full of delight. This is the most beautiful starlight, laughed Carol. Just look at it, Angela. Angela thought that this starlight did look even more brilliant than the others. Then, just as she was about to take it from Carol, the starlight suddenly spluttered, and with a hissing song, the lights all died away. The Christmas breeze was now quite strong, and Angela wondered if it had blown out the starlight. Is it finished already? Asked Carol. It can't be, replied Angela sharply as she took it and looked at it carefully. But the starlight was already black and twisted. Angela fought back the tears as she struck match after match trying to light it, but nothing happened. I'm sorry, Angela, said Carol. You didn't get your turn. Angela couldn't bear to make Carol feel sad, so she tried to smile bravely as she says, It's all right. I had two already, remember? Then you aren't vexed, Carol said. No, of course not, replied Angela as she gave her sister a quick hug. And this one was especially pretty, just for you. She was very disappointed about the doll, but she was determined not to show it, as the two girls got their clothes ready for Christmas morning. The first little rays of daylight were just slipping through the tiny curtains at the windows when Angela turned over and rubbed her eyes. She stretched and yawned, and then she felt something at the bottom of the bed. She sat up and rubbed her eyes. And there, sitting on the old chenille spread, was the doll with the white blouse and the red frilly skirt. I must be dreaming, Angela thought. But as she ran her hand over the tight black curls and the smooth colored face, she knew she was awake. It was not a dream at all. "Mommy, Daddy," she called. Carol, who was awake by now, was jumping up and down in excitement. She had discovered another doll in the folds of the spread. It was a baby doll, just the right size for her. "Thank you, Mommy and Daddy," cried Angela as her parents appeared at the door. "How did you know just what I wanted?" "Did you put those dolls there?" their father asked their mother, laughing. "It's a surprise to me," replied the mother with a secret smile. And as Angela hugged her parents, she thought she saw something darting along a shaft of light and out through the window, something as small as the hummingbird, except that there was a flash of red and yellow like the bandana cloth. "I wonder if it really could be her," said Angela to herself with a little smile. "I wonder if Auntie of the Starlight really was there." And that's the end of the story. Did you like the story? You did? So you see how kind Angela was? She knew that her mommy wanted something, her daddy wanted something, her sister wanted something, but she also wanted something. But she decided that she will give it all up so that the others will be happy. And then in the end, because she was so quiet, she was also very happy, and she was such a good girl, she got the doll that she wanted. So, you know what that means? If you are a good boy and if you are a good girl and good girls, then you're going to get what you want for Christmas, right? Yes? Yeah.